So my mother's a pediatrician, and when I was young, she'd tell the craziest stories that combined science with her overactive imagination. One of the stories she told was that if you eat a lot of salt, all of the blood rushes up your legs, through your body, and shoots out the top of your head, killing you instantly. She called it high blood pressure. This was my first experience with science fiction, and I loved it. So when I started to write my own science fiction and fantasy, I was surprised that it was considered un-African. So naturally, I asked, what is African? And this is what I know so far. Africa is important. Africa is the future. It is, though. And Africa is a serious place where only serious things happen. So, when I present my work somewhere, someone will always ask, what's so important about it? How does it deal with real African issues like war, poverty, devastation, or AIDS? And it doesn't. My work is about Nairobi pop bands that want to go to space or about 7-foot-tall robots that fall in love. It's nothing incredibly important. It's just fun, fierce, and frivolous. As frivolous as bubble gum. Afro bubble gum. When you get to a party, do you head for people your own age? Have you ever grumbled about entitled millennials? Have you ever rejected a haircut or a relationship or an outing because it's not age appropriate? For adults, there's no such thing. All these behaviors are ageist. We all do them, and we can't challenge bias unless we're aware of it. Nobody's born ageist, but it starts at early childhood. Around the same time, attitudes towards race and gender start to form, because negative messages about late life bombard us from the media and popular culture at every turn. Right? Wrinkles are ugly. Old people are pathetic. It's sad to be old. Look at Hollywood. A survey of recent Best Picture nominations found that only 12% of speaking or named characters were age 60 and up, and many of them were portrayed as impaired. Older people can be the most ageist of all because we've had a lifetime to internalize these messages, and we've never thought to challenge them. I had to acknowledge it and stop colluding. Senior moment quips, for example. I stopped making them when it dawned on me that when I lost the car keys in high school, I didn't call it a junior moment. The earliest writers on politics, and I'm thinking of Plato and Aristotle here, felt free to draw insights from all areas of human knowledge, unlike modern academic writers who tend to put things into smaller and smaller compartments, or focus more closely on one area of inquiry. For example, Plato would examine a whole political system and the philosophy that underlies it, whereas modern writers on politics might concentrate on one particular institution in that system, the House of Lords in England, or on voting patterns within a country. With this focus, the bigger questions that the ancients dealt with. What is the best form of government? Or, what is justice? Tend to get left behind. Many writers on politics these days are university-based, and so have to have specialized interests. And while they may make new and interesting discoveries in their special field, it is at the loss of a broader perspective, not to mention the loss of a general audience or readership. In the 19th century, there were still writers who used the same freedom of inquiry as the ancients, and are all the more readable and relevant because of it. Children's natural desires lie primarily in the realm of sensation. New things to look at or new sounds to hear, especially when they involve the spectacle of action of a violent sort, will always divert the attention from abstract conceptions of objects verbally taken in. The grimace that one student makes, the spitballs that another is ready to throw, the dog fighting in the street, or the ringing of distant fire engine. These are the rivals with which the powers of the teacher to be interesting have to cope incessantly. The child will always be more concerned in what a teacher is doing than what the same teacher is saying. The children are relaxed and attentive during experiments, or when the teacher is drawing on the blackboard. Switzerland in watchmaking followed precisely the example of Germany in clockmaking. It commenced there in the 17th and culminated in the 19th century. Many thousands of its population were engaged in the business, and it flourished under the fostering care of the government by the establishment of astronomical observations for testing, the adjustment of the best watches, the giving of prizes, and the establishment and encouragement of schools of horology conducted on thorough scientific methods. A quarter of a century ago, it was estimated that in Switzerland 40,000 persons out of a population of 150,000 were engaged in watchmaking, and that the annual production sometimes reached 1,600,000 completed movements. The whole world was their market. The United States alone was importing 134,000 watches annually from that country. Pancake ice is an intermediate step between an open water configuration and a totally frozen body of water. We know that a combination of very cold temperatures and waves is necessary to make the pancakes form in the first place. After these waves make it form, there's an entire spectrum, so a wide collection of frequency waves that they would encounter, whether they be from wind shear or they'd be from, the ocean long, slow waves. The easiest way to study it is to look at each individual range of frequencies, one after another. Sort of gain a wider perspective on how the pancake ice interacts with waves. The ultimate aim of our research is to better inform the meteorological modelers of the world who are looking at Antarctica, as well as the Arctic and some of the other cold regions of the world. We're conducting work in the Sea Ice Wind Wave Interaction Facility here at insigniaove. It was designed by the head of our department, Jason Monti. He had the foresight to use a modular design, which means there are individual sections that are stacked together. So since we're built to the space that we have in this lab right now, when we move to Fisherman's Bend, we can extend our model and a few more sections to make it much longer. And that will enable us to have longer run times, have more developed waves, as well as add some other possibilities of study. How would you define reasonable as it is used in law? For example, you are allowed to use reasonable force when defending yourself. It seems to depend on how serious the situation was, whether it was possible to resolve it by peaceful means, whether you were ready to try those means, and finally, the relative strengths of those involved. Now, most men know, and they've probably grasped this from their earliest years in the school playground, that, when it comes to blows, fights don't stop until one of you is in no shape to do any damage to the other. The criteria mentioned seem a bit fuzzy to me. How can you convince a jury you were ready to try and talk your way out of it when the other person would have none of it? And besides, he was quick to land the first punch. Also, you can strike the first blow and still plead self-defense. Of course, you again have the problem of convincing people that the threat was so great that you had no alternative, apart from getting beaten up yourself. Reacting calmly and rationally to a perceived threat is not easy to do. But scientists have found that there might be a way to boost the part of the learning process that happens during sleep. Sleep plays a vital role in how you create and store memories. While you're awake, you learn all sorts of new stuff, taking in facts and experiences just from going about your everyday life. That's when your brain encodes memories, making new connections between neurons so you can remember it all later. Then, when you go to sleep, your brain goes through the consolidation phase of memory formation. Scientists aren't totally sure how that works, but they think your brain turns all that stuff you just learned into solid long-term memories by reactivating them and strengthening those.
If you can read a clock, you can know the time of day. But no one knows what time itself is. We cannot see it. We cannot touch it. We cannot hear it. We know it only by the way we mark its passing. For all our success in measuring the smallest parts of time, Time remains one of the great mysteries of the universe. One way to think of about time is to imagine a world without time. There could be no movement because time and movement cannot be separated. A world without time could exist only as long as there were no changes. For time and change are linked. We know that time has passed when something changes. There is something hard to resist about cherries. The small red fruit is a popular seasonal food around the world. In northern areas, cherry trees are just beginning to produce flowers. The cherry is a member of the same family of plants as the rose. It is closely related to the plum. Like cherry trees, plum trees also flower in early spring. Cherries are thought to be native to Western Asia. There are two major kinds of cherries harvested in the world, sweet and sour. Sour cherries are not eaten fresh because they contain little sugar. Instead, they are processed to make prepared foods like jellies and pies and to make alcoholic drinks. The United States is a major producer of sour cherries. Among the states, Michigan is the top producer. Winter has returned to northern parts of the world. In the northern United States, winter can mean the return of snow. Large amounts of snow fell in some American cities last month. One storm hit the East Coast, causing flight cancellations and temporarily stopping traffic in some areas. Snow is a subject of great interest to weather experts. They sometimes have difficulty estimating where, when, or how much snow will fall. One reason is that heavy amounts of snow fall in surprisingly small areas. Another reason is that a small change in temperature can mean the difference between snow and rain.
Students were instructed to submit their assignments by Friday. There are many branches of medical studies. Student concession cards can be obtained by completing an application form.